I thought it was just fatigue, but it was my body asking for help, and I ignored it for years. In this video, I share my story, how gut health, magnesium, B6, and omega-3 impact anxiety, sleep, and your immune system. If you eat and rest but still feel exhausted, it's not laziness, it's biochemistry, and you can fix it. Today, you will learn how easily health problems can be solved if you start listening to your body. I'll tell you my own story and share my life hacks. To be honest, for a long time, I didn't even understand what the phrase "listen to your body" meant, and I thought that if nothing hurts, then everything must be okay. I ignored the fact that every morning I woke up already tired, as if I hadn't even gone to bed, that my mood was stuck somewhere around neutral irritated, and that I had a thick fog in my head. I had to drink a double espresso just to remember what my name was. And at some point, I finally got it, that maybe this wasn't normal, and I had simply gotten used to a condition that should actually raise questions. Instead of going online again and panicking over some random diagnosis, I decided to pause and just observe myself, how I feel after eating, how I sleep, whether I move during the day, how much water I drink, and what happens when I break that routine. And that's when a real inner revolution began, because it turned out my body had been talking to me all this time. I just hadn't been listening or didn't know how. I started reading and learned something. That, for example, fatigue and irritability aren't always from overworking or lack of sleep. Sometimes it's due to a deficiency in magnesium, B6, or omega-3, which directly affect the nervous system and mood. What surprised me most was learning that up to 90% of serotonin, the substance related to joy and calm, is not produced in the brain, as I had always thought, but in the gut. Yes, right there. Of course, that serotonin doesn't jump directly into the brain, but there's such a strong connection between the gut and the nervous system that when your gut is a mess, your mood is all over the place too. Even if everything seems fine on the outside. I started paying more attention to what I was eating, and for the first time added supplements to my diet. I started with magnesium and B6, especially in the evening to sleep better, added chromium to reduce sugar cravings, and omega-3 for the brain and blood vessels. And honestly, after just 2 weeks, I started waking up more refreshed. And after meals, I didn't feel drained like before, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I had energy again. Not just for work, but for life. Of course, I didn't become a fan of miracle pills. I clearly understand that supplements aren't magic, but just a way to support the body, especially if your diet is far from ideal and stress and overload are part of your daily life. I compare it to building a house with a dull axe. You can chop, sort of, but you get tired quickly and the results are mediocre. Good supplements are like a sharpened tool. Everything goes smoother. It turns out deficiencies aren't just a lack of a vitamin, but a huge system of breakdowns, which can show up as insomnia, panic, irritability, headaches, skin problems, and even a loss of interest in life. I started reading about gut microbiota and found out that it not only helps digest food, but is directly linked to the immune system, cognitive function, and even anxiety levels. That's why I added probiotics and prebiotics to my diet. Over time, I started noticing even the small signals. If I crave salty things, it might mean I'm low on electrolytes. If I don't feel like moving, I probably had too many carbs. If I start binging on sweets, maybe it's not about willpower, but a sign of chromium deficiency or unstable blood sugar. I started noticing patterns that one bad night's sleep can ruin the whole next day. Because cortisol, the stress hormone, rises, insulin sensitivity drops, and it all pushes the body into survival mode. And in that state, you don't feel like meditating or going for a walk. You just want to lie down, eat pastries, and procrastinate because your brain just can't handle it anymore. But when I started giving my body what it actually needed, instead of fighting the symptoms, everything started to change. I had more energy, my mind worked more clearly, anxiety went down, and my mood no longer depended on outside factors. The most important thing I realized, the body is not the enemy, not an obstacle. It's always on my side, doing everything it can to keep me alive. but if I ignore its signals, it just turns up the alarm louder and louder. I no longer see fatigue as weakness, but as a request for help. I don't believe anxiety comes from nowhere. I see it as a sign something went wrong. And yes, I'm still not perfect. Sometimes I slip, overeat, or forget to drink water, but now at least I notice it and can trace what went wrong. Now I think of my body as a partner. That has all the answers. I just didn't listen and acted against it. Now I have a dialogue with it, and the more I listen, the more it gives me back. Energy, clarity, calm, the will to live, not just to survive from Monday to Friday. If someone, back in that gray, foggy period, had told me that a few supplements and paying attention to myself could change my life so much, honestly, I wouldn't have believed it. But now I know it, not from books or blogs, I've lived it myself. By the way, one fact really amazed me. Did you know that around 70% of our immune system is located in the gut? For me, that was a total revelation. Turns out, the gut isn't just where food is digested, but a real control center for health. A huge ecosystem of bacteria lives there, the microbiota, which not only helps digest food, but also affects the immune system, the production of neurotransmitters, the level of anxiety, and even the quality of sleep. Yes, poor sleep isn't just from stress. I found out the microbiota can also affect that. If it's out of balance, it disrupts the production of substances that build essential hormones, like melatonin. And the brain, receiving distorted signals, simply doesn't switch into sleep mode properly. When I started paying more attention to which foods actually suit me, and which cause me bloating and heaviness, I noticed some amazing changes. My stomach became calmer, I slept more deeply, and colds that used to come with every draft became rare visitors. And that's when I realized it's not about a miracle pill or magic or the power of self-suggestion. It's basic physiology. If the microbiota works, the whole body works. The biggest discovery, our body isn't the enemy, it's a partner. I used to seriously think my body was sabotaging my life. It was always tired, out of shape, demanding too much. I would get angry, frustrated, try to force or ignore it. And of course, it only got worse. Then it hit me. The body isn't getting in the way, it's sending signals. It's trying to protect me, warn me, stop me. When I keep running the red lights, and when I stopped seeing symptoms as enemies and began seeing them as my body's language, the real changes began. I started going to bed earlier, not because I should, but because I felt more restored. I stopped skipping meals or forgetting to drink water because I realized it affected my focus, mood, and even motivation to move. I added physical activity, not out of guilt, but because walking made me feel alive. And yes, I still take supplements, magnesium, probiotics, omega-3, sometimes chromium, because I truly feel the difference, especially during stressful or busy times. It's not a trend or sudden enlightenment, it's just a way to pay attention to yourself, not to wait until you feel bad, but give yourself a head start. Try a small experiment. If you often feel like you're living on the edge, try spending 2 weeks as a researcher, not as a critic, controller, or judge, but as a curious observer. Write down how you sleep, what you eat, which foods cause heaviness, and which bring lightness. Add basic supplements, and just observe. You'll be surprised how much your body tells you every day, and how many years you mistook those signals for personality or age. And it was just your body waiting for you to finally listen to it.